March 1943. A maintenance depot somewhere in Tunisia. The captured American Jeep sat in the corner of a German field workshop, its olive drab paint dulled by desert sand, its white star still visible beneath a hastily painted cross. Oberfeld Abel Mueller, chief mechanic of the 8th Panzer Regiment, had been ordered to examine this vehicle thoroughly and report his findings to division headquarters. What he discovered over the next 72 hours would fundamentally challenge everything German engineers believed about automotive design. The Jeep bore serial number USA 3,467,892. Built by Willys-Overland in Toledo, Ohio, and designated as the Model MB, this particular vehicle had belonged to Company B of the 1st Armoured Division before its crew abandoned it during the German counterattack at Kasserine Pass. Unlike many captured vehicles that arrived damaged or partially destroyed, this Jeep had been taken intact. Its crew had simply run out of fuel and fled on foot. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today, leaving behind a perfectly operational example of American automotive engineering for German technical personnel to study. Mueller approached the examination with the confidence of a man who had spent 20 years working on German vehicles. He had maintained motorcycles, staff cars, and reconnaissance vehicles throughout the 1930s. He had served in Poland, France, and now North Africa, keeping German vehicles operational through combat conditions that destroyed lesser machines. He expected to find what German intelligence reports had suggested: a crude, hastily assembled vehicle built by a nation with more industrial capacity than engineering sophistication. What he found instead would haunt German technical reports for the remainder of the war. The global conflict had been raging for nearly 4 years by March 1943. German forces, initially victorious across Europe, now faced mounting challenges on multiple fronts. In the east, the catastrophe at Stalingrad had just concluded with the surrender of the 6th Army. In North Africa, the Afrika Korps faced increasing pressure from British Commonwealth forces in Libya and newly arrived American units in Tunisia. German logistics struggled to maintain equipment across these vast distances. Spare parts shortages plagued every unit. Mechanics worked miracles, keeping vehicles operational with improvised repairs and cannibalized components. The American Jeep represented something German planners had been warned about, but had not fully comprehended. American industrial might applied to military production. Intelligence reports reaching Berlin throughout 1942 had contained troubling statistics about American vehicle production. The numbers seemed impossible. Factories in Detroit, Toledo, and other American cities were reportedly producing military vehicles at rates that exceeded all German automotive production combined. German intelligence officers initially dismissed these figures as propaganda, certain that Americans were inflating their capabilities for psychological effect. German confidence in their own light vehicles remained high through 1941 and into early 1942. The Volkswagen Kübelwagen, designed by Ferdinand Porsche himself and derived from the people's car that Hitler had championed, had proven surprisingly capable in testing. Weighing only 1,600 pounds empty, significantly lighter than American vehicles, the Kübelwagen featured a clever flat underbody that allowed it to slide over obstacles like a motorized sled. Despite having only rear-wheel drive rather than the complex four-wheel drive systems Americans favored, German engineers believed their approach was superior. Why waste resources on mechanical complexity when intelligent design could achieve similar results with simpler means? The first German encounters with American Jeeps had occurred during Operation Torch in November 1942, when American forces landed in French North Africa. Thousands of Jeeps came ashore with the invasion force. German intelligence officers examining photographs and captured examples produced reports that acknowledged the Jeep's speed and cross-country mobility, but criticized what they saw as wasteful overproduction. One early analysis from December 1942 noted that Americans seemed to have unlimited numbers of these vehicles, suggesting industrial excess rather than tactical necessity. The Kübelwagen, German analysts argued, achieved similar mobility with half the horsepower and simpler mechanics. This assessment would prove catastrophically wrong. Mueller began his examination by walking slowly around the Jeep, noting its external features. The vehicle measured 132 inches from bumper to bumper, 62 inches wide, and 72 inches tall with the windshield upright. Canvas top and side curtains had been removed, leaving the steel body exposed. The design appeared remarkably simple. No doors. A flat hood held down by leather straps and quick-release fasteners. Exposed bolts everywhere. The body was formed from simple pressed steel panels with minimal curves and no attempt at aesthetic refinement. To eyes trained on German vehicles with their carefully engineered body panels and precise fit, the Jeep looked crude. But Mueller noticed something else as he examined the construction more carefully. Every bolt was a standard size, every fastener appeared interchangeable. The hood latches were identical simple mechanisms requiring no special tools. The entire body could be disassembled with basic wrenches. German vehicles, by contrast, often required specialized tools and careful attention to maintain proper fit. This American approach traded elegance for practicality. The question was whether practicality mattered more than engineering sophistication. He opened the hood using the simple leather straps, revealing the engine bay. What he saw there would form the core of his most troubling observations. The engine was a four-cylinder inline unit mounted conventionally at the front. The valve cover was marked with the manufacturer's designation, Willys Go Devil Model Lone 34, displacement of 134 cubic inches, producing 60 horsepower at 4,000 revolutions per minute. The numbers told only part of the story. Mueller had expected to find an engine built to automotive precision, with tight tolerances and careful machining. Instead, he found something fundamentally different. The engine block was heavy cast iron, massively overbuilt for its power output. Tolerances were loose by German standards. Gaps between components seemed almost crude. The carburetor was a simple single-barrel design requiring minimal adjustment. The ignition system used basic components with no sophisticated timing mechanisms. Everything about the engine suggested it had been designed for durability rather than performance, for ease of maintenance rather than efficiency. He removed the valve cover to examine the valve train. What he found shocked him. The engine used a side valve flathead design, with valves mounted parallel to the cylinders rather than overhead. This configuration, considered outdated by German engineers who favored more sophisticated overhead valve designs, offered significant advantages Mueller immediately recognized. Fewer moving parts, simpler adjustment procedures, easier access for maintenance. The entire valve train could be serviced without removing the cylinder head. A mechanic with basic training could adjust valves in minutes using simple tools. The cooling system demonstrated the same philosophy. A conventional radiator at the front, connected by simple rubber hoses to the engine. No complex plumbing, no sophisticated thermostats requiring precise calibration. The water pump was a straightforward mechanical unit, driven directly from the crankshaft. Mueller noted that sand and debris in the cooling system, which would have clogged and destroyed more complex German designs, had apparently not affected this engine's operation. The broad tolerance for contamination meant the system kept functioning under conditions that would have disabled German vehicles. He moved to examine the drivetrain. The transmission was a conventional 3-speed manual unit with synchronized gears in second and third. What caught Mueller's attention was the transfer case attached directly to the rear of the transmission. This compact unit contained the mechanism for engaging four-wheel drive and selecting low-range gearing for difficult terrain. Two simple floor-mounted levers controlled everything. One lever engaged or disengaged four-wheel drive. The other selected high or low range. No complex controls, no sophisticated mechanisms requiring expert operation. Any driver with basic training could engage four-wheel drive while moving, a capability German vehicles often lacked. Mueller spent an hour examining the four-wheel drive system in detail. Unlike German experimental four-wheel drive vehicles that used complex differentials and intricate transfer mechanisms, the American design was remarkably straightforward. The front axle received power through a simple drive shaft from the transfer case. The wheel hubs contained no complex mechanisms, just straightforward gearing. The entire system could be maintained with standard tools. Parts appeared completely interchangeable. He noted with growing unease that this simple system seemed more reliable than sophisticated German alternatives that worked beautifully when new but required constant expert attention to maintain. The suspension used simple leaf springs and solid axles at both front and rear. No sophisticated independent suspension. No complex geometry requiring precise alignment. Just basic military-grade components designed to absorb punishment and keep operating. The shock absorbers were straightforward hydraulic units mounted vertically. Mueller realized that this crude-appearing suspension probably required less maintenance and survived battlefield damage better than more sophisticated German systems. Simplicity, it seemed, had been deliberately chosen over refinement. He examined the brakes next, expecting to find simple mechanical systems. Instead, he found a complete hydraulic brake system with a master cylinder, brake lines, and wheel cylinders at all four corners. This was sophisticated technology, more advanced than the mechanical brakes used on many German vehicles. The hydraulic system provided smooth, consistent braking that mechanical systems could not match. Yet, even this sophisticated component had been designed for simplicity. The brake lines were standard diameter throughout. Wheel cylinders were identical at all four corners. Any component could be replaced with parts from any supply depot. The design philosophy extended even to advanced systems. Make them as simple as possible while maintaining necessary functionality. The electrical system revealed the same approach. A 6-volt system, powered by a generator driven from the engine. Simple wiring throughout, with no complex control modules or sophisticated switches. The headlights were basic sealed beam units, identical left and right, easily replaced. The ignition system used a conventional distributor and coil, with simple points requiring periodic adjustment but no expert knowledge. Mueller noted that the entire electrical system could be troubleshot and repaired by anyone with basic electrical knowledge and simple test equipment. German vehicles often required factory-trained technicians to diagnose electrical problems. He found the vehicle identification plates and data tags mounted in various locations. The serial number matched records he had obtained from captured American documents. The data plate listed specifications that confirmed what his examination had revealed. Curb weight of 2,160 pounds, maximum load capacity of 800 pounds, fuel capacity of 15 gallons, oil capacity of 5 quarts. Every measurement used American units, but converting them revealed capabilities that exceeded many German light vehicles. The load capacity particularly impressed Mueller. This small vehicle could carry 3 men with full equipment plus weapons and supplies, while maintaining cross-country mobility. After 3 days of detailed examination, Mueller prepared his technical report for division headquarters. He chose his words carefully, knowing that his conclusions would challenge prevailing German assumptions about American engineering capabilities. The report opened with basic data, then moved to more troubling observations about the vehicle's design philosophy. He wrote that every component appeared designed for ease of maintenance by minimally trained personnel using basic tools. Parts showed clear evidence of mass production with loose tolerances, yet the vehicle functioned reliably. The engine demonstrated remarkable durability, despite what German engineers would consider crude construction. The most disturbing section of Mueller's report dealt with implications for German vehicle production and maintenance. He noted that captured American supply depots contained massive stocks of Jeep components. Every part was standardized. A carburetor taken from one Jeep would function perfectly in another. Transmissions, transfer cases, axles, wheels, even body panels appeared completely interchangeable. This standardization created enormous advantages for American logistics that German forces could not match. Mueller's report noted that German maintenance required stocking parts for numerous vehicle types from different manufacturers, with components rarely interchangeable, even between nominally identical vehicles. He included observations. about American automotive philosophy that challenged German engineering assumptions. Americans, he wrote, appeared to prioritize keeping vehicles operational over achieving maximum performance from each component. They accepted loose tolerances and heavy construction that German engineers would consider wasteful. Yet this approach meant that vehicles kept running under conditions that disabled German equipment. The Jeep's simple design meant conscript mechanics with basic training could maintain it. German vehicles required skilled technicians with years of specialized training. The report's conclusions were carefully diplomatic but clear in their implications. The captured vehicle demonstrated that American industrial capacity could produce simple, reliable vehicles in quantities Germany could not match. The design philosophy emphasized operational availability over technical sophistication. German vehicles might be more elegantly engineered, but American vehicles stayed operational in field conditions. Mueller noted that several German units had already begun using captured Jeeps in preference to their own vehicles, citing superior reliability and ease of maintenance. His report reached the headquarters of Army Group Africa in late March 1943. Staff officers read it with growing concern. Other reports from across North Africa echoed Mueller's observations. German units operating captured American Jeeps reported significantly improved mobility and reliability compared to Kübelwagens. The four-wheel drive system worked flawlessly in sand and mud, where German vehicles became stuck. Most troubling, captured Jeeps kept running with minimal maintenance, while German vehicles required constant attention from skilled mechanics. A separate report from a captured American supply depot in Tunisia provided context that made Mueller's technical observations even more alarming. American forces in North Africa had received approximately 20,000 Jeeps since November 1942. Production documents found at the depot indicated that Willys and Ford together were producing Jeeps at a rate exceeding 600 vehicles daily. Simple multiplication revealed that Americans were building more Jeeps every month than Germany produced light military vehicles in an entire year. The implications were staggering. German response to these reports revealed the conflict between recognition and capability. Technical officers acknowledged American advantages in production and design simplicity, but German industry, already struggling to maintain production of existing vehicle types while facing Allied bombing raids, had no capacity to develop new designs or retool factories. Ferdinand Porsche reviewed captured Jeep reports and acknowledged the American four-wheel drive system's advantages, but noted that German factories could not produce such systems in sufficient quantities, even if production began immediately. The debate within German technical circles focused on whether sophisticated engineering or simple reliability mattered more in military vehicles. Traditionalists argued that German vehicles, while requiring more maintenance, offered superior performance when properly maintained. Pragmatists pointed out that properly maintained meant little when spare parts were unavailable and skilled mechanics were scarce. The Jeep succeeded not because it was technically sophisticated, but because it was designed to operate with minimal maintenance under conditions where supplies were limited and operators were barely trained. Field reports from other theaters confirmed the pattern Mueller had documented. On the Eastern Front, German units that captured American Jeeps supplied to Soviet forces through Lend-Lease kept them running in preference to German vehicles. The simple design and robust construction proved ideal for Russian winter conditions. Air-cooled Kübelwagens theoretically had advantages in extreme cold, but the Jeep's liquid cooling system, designed with wide tolerances, rarely froze even without antifreeze if the engine was drained nightly. German crews learned to maintain captured Jeeps using techniques they had learned from captured American manuals, finding the maintenance procedures simpler than those for German vehicles. In Italy, where American forces landed in September 1943, German mechanics had even more opportunities to examine Jeeps in detail. Captured vehicles were often in excellent condition, abandoned during retreats rather than destroyed by combat damage. Workshops established in northern Italy to service German vehicles began maintaining small fleets of captured American Jeeps for unit commanders who preferred them to German staff cars. Maintenance records from these workshops showed captured Jeeps required significantly less shop time than equivalent German vehicles. One particularly detailed analysis came from a German engineering unit in Italy in December 1943. Major Werner Schulz, commanding the unit, ordered a complete teardown of a captured Jeep to understand every aspect of its construction. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. His report, forwarded to Berlin, confirmed Mueller's earlier observations while adding new details. Schulz noted that the Jeep's engine used timing gears rather than chains, eliminating a common failure point in German vehicles. The oil pump was gear-driven directly from the camshaft, providing reliable lubrication even when the engine was badly worn. The fuel pump was a simple mechanical unit requiring no adjustment. Schulz's most significant observation concerned the engine's design margins. The block, crankshaft, connecting rods, and bearings were all massively overbuilt for the engine's 60 horsepower output. German engineers would have considered this wasteful, adding unnecessary weight and using scarce materials inefficiently. But Schulz recognized that this overbuilding meant the engine could survive abuse that would destroy a more highly stressed German design. Tolerances could increase as parts wore without causing failure. The engine could run with contaminated oil, damaged bearings, or worn pistons and still provide adequate power. This durability trumped efficiency in combat conditions. The transmission analysis revealed similar design philosophy. Gear teeth were cut with generous dimensions. Bearings were large and robust. The synchronizer mechanisms were simple but effective. Everything was built to survive, rather than to achieve minimum weight or maximum efficiency. Schulz calculated that the transmission weighed perhaps 20% more than an equivalent German unit, but field reliability was enormously better. He noted ruefully in his report that German transmissions were beautiful examples of precision engineering that required constant expert maintenance, while the American transmission was crude but kept working under conditions that would destroy German gearboxes. By mid-1944, German use of captured American Jeeps had become common enough that special procedures were established. Captured vehicles were to be marked with German insignia to prevent friendly fire. Maintenance crews received training on American vehicle systems. Fuel allocation for captured vehicles received priority despite their higher consumption compared to Kübelwagens, because commanders recognized that one Jeep could accomplish missions requiring 2 or 3 German vehicles. The reasoning was brutally simple. Speed, range, and reliability meant that Jeeps were more tactically valuable than German vehicles, even when considering fuel costs. Operation Greif, during the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, provided the most dramatic example of German desire for captured Jeeps. When Adolf Hitler ordered Otto Skorzeny to conduct special operations behind American lines using commandos in American uniforms, Skorzeny specifically requested large numbers of captured Jeeps. The plan required German soldiers dressed as Americans to penetrate Allied lines and create confusion. Skorzeny asked for at least 100 captured Jeeps for the operation. German supply officers contacted every unit that might have captured American vehicles. After weeks of searching, they managed to acquire only about 30 Jeeps. The shortage forced Skorzeny to improvise, disguising German vehicles to resemble American equipment. The fact that even Hitler's personal backing could not secure more captured Jeeps revealed their scarcity and value. The commandos who received captured Jeeps for Operation Greif found them remarkably effective. Dressed in American uniforms and driving genuine American vehicles, German soldiers penetrated Allied lines and caused significant confusion during the opening days of the offensive. American guards became paranoid, questioning everyone and demanding proof of identity. Several German teams were eventually captured, and their interrogations revealed consistent praise for the Jeep's performance. They noted its speed enabled quick escapes, its maneuverability helped evade checkpoints, and its ubiquity meant one more Jeep attracted no special attention. The vehicles themselves performed flawlessly in German hands. The comparison between Jeep and Kübelwagen capabilities became impossible to ignore as field reports accumulated through 1944. The Kübelwagen weighed approximately 1,600 pounds, significantly lighter than the Jeep's 2,100 pounds. It was powered by an air-cooled engine producing 23.5 horsepower initially, upgraded to 25 horsepower in March 1943. This gave the Kübelwagen a power-to-weight ratio of about 15 horsepower per ton, while the Jeep achieved approximately 28 horsepower per ton. The performance difference was dramatic. The Jeep could accelerate faster, climb steeper grades, and maintain higher speeds both on roads and cross-country. The Kübelwagen's top speed was about 50 miles per hour on roads, but it struggled to maintain even 30 miles per hour off-road. The Jeep's top speed approached 55 miles per hour on roads and could maintain 40 miles per hour across rough terrain. The four-wheel drive difference was even more critical. The Kübelwagen's rear-wheel drive with self-locking differential and portal gear reduction hubs provided surprisingly good off-road performance in certain conditions. In sand, snow, and mud, the lightweight and flat floor sometimes gave advantages. But in steep terrain, when crossing obstacles, or any situation requiring maximum traction, the Jeep's four-wheel drive proved overwhelmingly superior. Testing by both American and German forces showed Jeeps could climb 60% grades fully loaded. Kübelwagens could barely manage 30% grades with similar loads. This meant American units could operate in mountainous terrain where German vehicles simply could not follow. In Italy, where much of the fighting occurred in steep hills and mountains, this advantage proved decisive. American reconnaissance units in Jeeps could navigate mountain trails impossible for heavier vehicles, providing intelligence on German positions that would have been inaccessible to German Kübelwagens attempting similar missions. Reliability comparisons favored the Jeep even more dramatically. The Kübelwagen's air-cooled engine was simple and reliable in theory, but its limited power meant it constantly operated at maximum output under combat conditions. This led to premature wear and frequent failures. The Jeep's more powerful engine rarely operated at maximum output, reducing stress and extending service life. German mechanics noted that Kübelwagen engines typically required major overhauls after about 5,000 kilometers of hard use. Jeep engines often remained operational well past 15,000 kilometers with routine maintenance. Maintenance requirements showed the same pattern. The Kübelwagen had been designed for simplicity, but German supply chain problems meant spare parts were often unavailable when needed. Parts had to be ordered from factories in Germany, shipped across contested sea lanes, and distributed through a logistics system under constant attack. Jeep maintenance benefited from American standardization. Parts were universally available from any supply depot. American logistics ensured that stocks were constantly replenished. German mechanics working on captured Jeeps could simply grab needed parts from American supply dumps, keeping vehicles operational indefinitely. The most telling comparison came from German units that operated both vehicle types simultaneously. Given free choice with adequate fuel available, German soldiers almost universally preferred captured American Jeeps over their own Kübelwagens. This preference appeared consistently in captured documents, interrogation reports, and post-war memoirs from German officers who had commanded units with both vehicles. Officers noted that Jeeps simply worked more reliably, required less maintenance, and provided capabilities that Kübelwagens could not match. Production statistics revealed the true magnitude of American advantage. From 1941 through 1945, Willys produced 361,339 MB Jeeps. Ford built 277,896 GPW Jeeps. Combined production exceeded 639,000 vehicles built to identical specifications. Germany, by comparison, produced exactly 50,435 Kübelwagens during the entire war. America built more than 12 times as many quarter-ton vehicles as Germany. The ratio became even more favorable when considering that roughly 30% of American Jeep production went to Allied forces through Lend-Lease. This meant German forces faced Jeeps not only when fighting Americans, but also when engaging British, Soviet, and French units. The universality of the Jeep across all Allied forces created additional advantages. When American, British and French units operated together. They could share spare parts and maintenance support for their jeeps. German forces, by contrast, operated a bewildering variety of light vehicles from different manufacturers with non-interchangeable parts. An axiom of military operations held that logistics determined strategic possibilities. The Jeep embodied this truth. The final year of the war saw German forces in complete collapse. Fuel shortages, ammunition shortages, and disintegration of German logistics meant that even when units captured American equipment, they often could not use it. Abandoned American vehicles littered roads across Germany as Allied armies advanced. Yet even in these desperate final months, individual German soldiers continued seeking captured jeeps when possible. Personal mobility remained valuable even as strategic mobility collapsed. Officers used captured jeeps to move between disintegrating units. Soldiers used them to flee advancing Allied armies. Post-war interrogations of German officers provided final assessments. When asked to evaluate American equipment, commanders consistently rated the Jeep among the most impressive American achievements. Some rated it more strategically valuable than American tanks or aircraft. The reasoning was consistent across multiple interrogations. Tanks and aircraft were dramatic and drew attention, but the Jeep enabled everything else. It provided the mobility, flexibility, and logistics that made American operations possible. Superior firepower meant nothing without logistics to supply it. Advanced tactics required mobility to implement. General Lieutenant Friedrich Schulz, captured near Cassino in December 1943, stated flatly during interrogation that Nazi generals admired the Jeep more than any other American material. It was, he said, the vehicle they most liked to capture for general use. This assessment from a senior German officer with extensive combat experience marked a complete reversal from the dismissive reports of early 1942. The transformation revealed the broader story of how American industrial capacity and pragmatic engineering gradually overwhelmed initial German advantages. The Jeep epitomized the American approach to military equipment. It was not the most sophisticated light vehicle. German engineers could point to specific features of the Kübelwagen that showed greater design cleverness, the flat underbody that allowed it to slide over obstacles, the air-cooled engine that eliminated radiator vulnerability, the lightweight construction that reduced tire wear and fuel consumption. But sophistication mattered less than production capacity, reliability, and standardization. America built enough Jeeps to equip every unit that needed them, maintained them with universal spare parts, and employed them flexibly across every combat role imaginable. German soldiers recognized this reality faster than German high command. Soldiers in the field saw that American units had mobility German forces could not match. They saw that American wounded reached hospitals faster. American supplies moved forward more quickly. American commanders responded to changing situations more rapidly. Much of this advantage stemmed from having enough Jeeps that mobility became routine rather than exceptional. When German commanders captured intact American supply depots, they found warehouses full of Jeep spare parts. When they examined American organizational charts, they found that even the smallest American units had vehicle allocations. When they observed American operations, they saw Jeeps everywhere, performing every conceivable task. The ubiquity of the Jeep in American forces had no German equivalent. Kübelwagens were valuable but scarce. German light vehicles were carefully husbanded and assigned only to priority units. American Jeeps were so numerous they seemed disposable. Units that lost Jeeps to enemy action simply requisitioned replacements from supply depots stocked with thousands of vehicles. This abundance created strategic flexibility. American commanders could plan operations assuming unlimited vehicle availability. German commanders had to carefully ration vehicle assignments and could not plan operations requiring more vehicles than were available. The Jeep's mechanical simplicity meant damaged vehicles could often be repaired quickly. American maintenance doctrine emphasized rapid field repairs with extensive spare parts stocks. Vehicles damaged beyond field repair were simply replaced rather than waiting for depot-level overhaul. This approach required enormous supply chains, but resulted in consistently high operational readiness rates. German maintenance doctrine emphasized careful repair and conservation because replacement vehicles were scarce. Damaged vehicles received multiple repairs and overhauls, keeping them operational, but often with degraded performance. The fundamental difference reflected different industrial capacities. America could afford to build vehicles with design margins, accept battlefield losses, and continuously supply replacement equipment. Germany had to carefully conserve every vehicle because industrial capacity could not replace losses. The Jeep succeeded not because it was revolutionary in concept, but because it was designed to be manufactured by the hundreds of thousands, maintained by barely trained mechanics, and operated by soldiers who had driven civilian automobiles before the war. This democratic approach to military equipment contrasted sharply with German reliance on skilled specialists and sophisticated machinery. Oberfeld Abel Mueller's report from March 1943 had identified these realities years before. German defeat became inevitable. His careful technical analysis revealed that American success stemmed not from superior engineering knowledge, but from different priorities. Germans built vehicles to impress with technical sophistication. Americans built vehicles to keep armies mobile under any conditions. Germans optimized individual components for maximum performance. Americans designed entire systems for reliability and ease of maintenance. Germans assumed skilled technicians would maintain equipment. Americans assumed conscripts with basic training would keep vehicles running. The lessons extended far beyond automotive engineering. They revealed fundamental differences in how industrial societies approached war production. Germany entered World War II confident that superior technology and tactical skill would overcome material disadvantages. This confidence proved misplaced. American industrial capacity, organizational ability, and engineering pragmatism gradually overwhelmed whatever advantages German sophistication provided. The Jeep told this story in miniature. It was not the most elegant solution to reconnaissance vehicle requirements. German engineers could design lighter, more fuel-efficient, more technically sophisticated vehicles. But none of that mattered when Germany could build 50,000 light vehicles while America built over 600,000. The transformation of German attitudes toward the American Jeep traced one of the war's most complete reversals. In 1941 and early 1942, intelligence officers dismissed it as primitive and inferior to German vehicles. By 1943, combat units actively sought to capture Jeeps. By 1944, special maintenance crews trained specifically to keep captured Jeeps operational. Even in 1945, as everything collapsed, German soldiers still praised American Jeeps above nearly all other equipment. The progression revealed how American methods prevailed over German assumptions. General George Marshall's assessment proved prophetic. The Jeep was indeed America's greatest contribution to modern warfare, not as the most powerful weapon, but as the enabler of everything else. The Willys MB and Ford GPW served faithfully not only through World War II, but also through Korea and beyond. Their influence exceeded their service life. The Jeep proved that mass production of standardized equipment, supported by efficient logistics, could decisively influence military outcomes. It demonstrated that industrial capacity was itself a form of military power. The German soldiers who initially laughed at the Jeep's simplicity had underestimated American industrial might. By 1943, they were trying to capture these vehicles. By 1945, they recognized that the Jeep represented everything about American power they had failed to understand. The Jeep went everywhere, did everything, and kept going, exactly as America had designed it to do. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.